Let's go over the basics of a computer case. They may not seem like very much. It's more than just a metal box. There's a lot of stuff going on inside, and some of that is reflected on the outside. You can see some various ports here. The USB, this is the power switch, the reset button, and so on. Let's do a walk around on the case, and then we'll open her up and take a look on the inside and kind of maybe demystify some of the wiring that goes on in there. This case, like most of them, have vents on the side. Now, if your computer has vents on the side, you definitely want to keep a couple inches, say 5 centimeters, 2 inches of airspace around here so it can either exhaust or pull air in. We're going around the back. It has your AC supply here. This one happens to be a 220 volt. And then it will have fans. This is an older case. It's only got one smaller fan on the back side, but they'll have either, like a 120 millimeter. This is an 80 millimeter, if I remember right. And this is where your motherboard will be sticking out, and you'll have a bunch of plugs on here, your USB, your HDMI, VGA, whatever it is you got. And then, of course, this is expansion slots. So for other things you put in there, say a graphics card. And then this one, that's pretty much it. There's nothing on that side. Okay, so let's do a close-up, get inside here, and look at the wiring, because that's really the most confusing part of these cases. All the cases in our house have this typical side cover that gets removed for the access, and there's just 2 screws back here. This one conveniently has thumb screws on it, which is good. Some of them you have to have a screwdriver, and they can be a little bit stubborn, so I typically push down, give a slide back. It doesn't move very far, centimeter, half an inch or so, and then pull it off. And then we'll move even closer in to see what's going on with the wiring. The case looks pretty simple on the outside, but on the inside, there's a lot of wires going on, and it can get confusing pretty fast. So let's sort through these, and I think you'll see it's a lot simpler than it appears at first glance. Okay, so let's look at these wires that are coming in from the top. These are all coming from the power supply right here, and that you can see coming out of the power supply right there. And that's what all these are. These are just 5 and 12 volt connections for your motherboard and for your peripherals. Some people are going to run them down the back. There's a gap between the other side cover and this framework. People will run the wiring down there. If you're going to do that, there's some sharp edges on the case. You got to watch out for that and make sure they're not there, or that they've been covered with plastic or something. Okay, so let's talk about these wires that are coming from the power supply. This is the one that goes to your motherboard for the main power on the motherboard. Okay, so that's not too hard. There's only one big plug on the motherboard that looks anything like that. Let's set that out of the way, see if it'll stay out of the way. And the rest of these are for things like peripherals, for fans, for hard drives, for DVD drives. And they come in like 3 different types. You'll see this one. This is the more modern power connector. You'll see this is the 4-pin, and that's kind of the old standard for pretty much, hard drives and whatever, all the older ones. Newer hard drives will have this, older ones will have this. And then this is for lower powered peripherals. And I think the last one I saw, well, I can't remember. I think it was a floppy disk drive that was using this. Okay, so that's one set of those. Let's put that out of the way. This is just another one of those, another string. So you can run, for example, you can run one to the upper part of your bay and the other one to the lower part of your bay. And that's, again, just another set of power plugs. Now this one is a power plug, but it's a little different. And some computers will have 2 of these. They'll have a 4 and a 6 pin. And these are typically for other peripherals, such as a graphics card. And yeah, so something like that will require extra power, and you'll plug that into that thing. Okay, so get those out of the way. This case has an oddity on it. One of the things we saw up front was a card reader, and that's what this plug is. So Most cases, I won't say most cases, a lot of cases won't have something like this, but that's just an extra USB plug. Get that out of the way. Okay, so the last thing, or the last things, are these wires. Now this one that goes up to the front, that's just a fan. There's a fan hidden behind the front cover there. And that plugs into one of these that we just put off to the side. One of these 4-pin plugs. Yeah, it just mates on there like that, and that'll run the fan. And it also has a continuation plug, so you can plug that into the power supply and then plug this into the next fan, so you don't waste one whole power supply plug doing that. Here we have the USB. So this is the front USB plugs, and you can see that right there. Okay, so nothing too scary about that. Move that out of the way. This, as I recall, is the audio jack, and then it has an extra plug accessory, 97. So my other computers don't have that one, but this one does. One would have to look at the specifications on the case to see where they want you to plug that onto your motherboard. Okay, let's see what else we got. Okay, here's an unusual one. It's some very skinny wires with a 4-pin plug, but only 2 pins. This goes to the front case lighting, and so yeah, it's just for vanity lighting. It just makes some blue lights come on the front of this particular case. Okay, now let's get to some more important wires. These, every case will have something like these, and let's see if we can get it so you can see it. This is the hard disk drive LED, so it says HDD LED, and yeah, that's exactly what that does. There'll be a light on the front of your case, though. When the hard disk is accessed, it will blink. Okay, so let's see if we can untangle that one, get that one out of the way. The next one is a reset switch. So yeah, that's exactly what that is what it says it is. It's a reset switch. That was on the front of the case we saw earlier, and it's just a 2-wire plug that will go into your motherboard. And then the last one, save the best for last, is the power switch, and again that will go into your motherboard, and when you push the power switch on the front, it activates your computer. Let's see, what else is interesting going on around here? Not a whole lot left. We have an extra fan port here, and if there was a fan here, we'd have more wires like we had up for the front fan. These ports back here, we saw them earlier. They're for extra things like a graphics card. There is this is the back of the DVD drive, and one thing we're missing, it's not really a case wiring. These are the SATA plugs. So these are actually the data plugs. They're not power plugs, they're data plugs. So this thing will have one power plug and one data plug going in the back of it. But again, these aren't really associated with the case. These are more from motherboard to some peripheral like that. And that's about it. Yeah, we're approaching the end. I mean, we have the drive bays over here. This is where a hard disk would go. So either your SSD or your hard disk drive. This is for your full-size devices, again, like a DVD drive. And that's pretty much it. So you're going to find these basics. Now, this is a simpler case, but you're going to find these same basics across almost all the cases. The power supply may have more wires to support more peripherals. You may have bays that are stacked differently. You may have the large bays on the bottom and the small bays on the top. You may have the power supply on the bottom, which is more typical these days. But otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how a case is set up. Okay, well, I hope you found that useful and interesting in your home computer work.